Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a late night Wandering Scribe book impressions here on Tales from the Wandering Scribe. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. Many of you know me as the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill. And today, we are now taken into uncharted waters, no pun intended, as we dive into a new book for the new year, courtesy of my good friend, Antoine Bandele, a wandering scribe alumni. The sickness was severe, and there was one known potion that could save him. Was piracy their only option? Zala wasn't skilled with a sword. She wasn't blessed with magic, but she knew the Sapphire Seas well. Plundering and raiding were arts of their own, and she got by on her wits. Yet, she was running out of time. She needed the big score to save her husband. What was her next move? Before she knew it, the game changed. High above them, off the coast of the Ibabi Isles, a strange airship was headed their way. Zala had never seen anything like this. The battle was imminent. She was going to need more than her bag of tricks. You'll love this adventure inspired by the West Indies, the Swahili Coast, and Arabia, as Zala encounters ruthless raiders, arrogant aristocrats, and imperial secrets. It will keep you turning the pages over and over again. So, without further ado, let us dive into By Sea and Sky, the Sky Pirate Chronicles. Chapter 1. Zala. Cold wind whipped across the white-capped waves, wailing like a vengeful ghost, the rallying cry of the pirates, who swung from precarious ropes below drowned its hollow. Neither could compete with the cannon blast. Zala went stiff with panic. Her knees locked and elbows held tight. She always froze before the jump. It wasn't the fear of death that had the soles of her feet planted to the deck of the Titan's crow's nest. It was the fear that one of those death calls below might be that of her husband. A break in the thick fog below, however, showed him engaged with a merchant who clearly didn't know the first thing about swordplay. Zala forced a calming breath. There was nothing to fear. Jelani was doing his job. She needed to do hers. It was her fault they were out here in the first place. It's only a merchant ship, she reminded herself. The ominous fog, stretching wide atop the ocean's wave, didn't help her unease as it cloaked the enemy vessel in its thick, creeping cloud. If she jumped now, there'd be no telling where she'd land. Dew streamed across her skin, cold bumps rising from her bare arms and ankles. Maybe there was a little fear of the jump after all. No use standing here pondering the worst, Zala thought as she took another deep breath. Her palms clutched at the coarse rope. You're not going to stand there all day, are you? Laughed a small, airy voice from within the fog. A figure appeared through the cloud. A lithe slip of a woman with the fluttering wings of a butterfly. Zala smiled at the woman, or rather, the Aziza. I was waiting for you. Zala gave her a half smile. Fawn rolled her eyes. You always say that. That's because I'm always waiting for you. The two women could hardly have appeared more different. Fawn barely came up to Zala's waist. with pointed ears and brown skin that seemed to glow. A tree bow tattoo set across her forehead. Zala was short for a human woman with skinny legs and small arms topped with supple shoulders, all the complexion of an ebony shade. Her fawn's hair was long on one side and braided on the other, no strand out of place. Zala's was cut short, left alone to coil and tangle naturally atop her head. Jelani, go ahead already? Fawn asked as she turned her head to the ocean mist. Zala frowned. On Kobe's orders, yes. Don't worry. Fawn tapped Zala's knee with her forefingers. Jelani's a big boy. He can take care of himself. So he keeps telling me, Zala said, unconvinced. Come on, pirate. Let's get over there before those Dikala find all the good loot. Fawn put on a tough face, squinting one eye and pursing her lips like an angry scoundrel. Zala couldn't help but smile at the glint of humor in that Aziza's eye. The farce just didn't fit Fawn. Even as she withdrew a long, sharp dagger, which looked more like a sword in her tiny hand, she could never quite shake off that disarming charm. After giving the Titan's signature salute, Fawn lifted from the deck and soared toward the enemy ship. Zala's brows creased her forehead. Fawn was right. The longer she waited, the less loot she had for herself. She couldn't afford second pickings. In an ideal world, the crew would divide the loot equally, but she knew the others were taking more than they should. It was just the way they did things around here. Zala gathered her strength, readjusting the sword at her side and the bow on her back. Here we go again, she mumbled before she gripped the rope and leapt into the air. Her heart raced as she swung the distance between the two ships, wind rushing past her ears like a Kongamato's wail. But she knew as soon as she jumped that she had timed it wrong. She stuck out her feet to meet the enemy ship's platform, or a rat line, or even the side of the ship, but she couldn't tell which. She found nothing but fog. Her lip hadn't been strong enough. She had been too nervous that she might drop, too nervous about the clashing swords, too nervous that she might fail. Look where that got you, Zala thought to herself angrily, berating herself with a string of swears picked up from the moon spent at sea. She reoriented her body at the apex of her swing and cast her weight back toward the crow's nest, where she caught her perch clumsily with one arm. She took a moment to settle her shaken nerves and center her mind back onto the task. She climbed back up onto the nest ledge and, with another deep breath, jumped once more into the unknown. This time she listened for the sound of steel on steel, the grunts and groans of battle. When they sounded loudest beneath her, she let go of the rope, tensing her calves as she descended onto the ship. Her bare feet met damp wood with a dull thud as she landed. Even on the ship's deck, the haze of the mist hid all. Zala could barely make out the glint of swords cutting their teeth against one another. The crack of the blades and their wielders raked against her senses. The first figure, someone from her crew, met that even murkier shape of a person she couldn't define at all. All around her, pirates and merchants alike traded insults between their clashes. When would Kobe learn? Taking on ship after ship like this was taxing the crew to breaking point. They were getting sloppy, and it would only get worse. In that moment, it didn't matter. All she needed to know right now was friend from foe. The pirate crew wore no uniform clothing, but she could usually make out her fellow crew members by the way they fought. They had that sway about them, the wine dance as Jelani called it. Zala drew her sword, identifying the figurehead as an enemy, and struck the unsuspecting foe in the back. The figure let out a guttural yell, a man's yell, as he kneeled over. The sound sent a shiver down Zala's spine. It was not her first, not by a long shot, but she'd never grown used to the sensation of steel cleaving through bone and sinew, or rather she hoped she wouldn't. It made her insides turn. The man fell at her feet, his simple tunic soaked through with blood. He was just a merchant, not a soldier at all. Familiar guilt filled Zala's gut, but she shook herself of its weight. If the man had made the choice to fight pirates, he brought his death upon himself. His captain should have surrendered when hers gave him the chance. It was unfortunate, but it wasn't her fault. Good looks, Shauna, the pirate Zala had said. The woman threw up a hand signal that Zala had come to learn meant thanks among pirates. Didn't think you ever saved me, she finished with a backhanded compliment. Zala recognized the woman as Nabila, the ghoul shifter Captain Kobe used as a scout. Zala tried her best to ignore the wound running down the pirate's arm. It looked deep. Instead of letting her eyes wander, Zala took her index finger and thumb and shaped them around into a circle at her eye. If she recalled correctly, the gesture meant, I've got your back. When the pirate smiled, Zala knew she had gotten it right. She was barely acquainted with Nabila, though she barely knew or even recognized a lot of the crew. Kobe had taken on many new members over the past fortnight. Learning their names and faces rarely mattered when they were all dead by the week's end, whether by blade or by sea. Zala turned to the merchant's corpse and passed her hands over his body in a quick search for loot. The merchant wore plain cream-colored robes, a checkered blue and white keifi atop his head, and a beard patched with white hair. Only the Yaji people sported those distinct head wraps, with that leather cord around their heads. Zala should have known. The crew had been raiding the Vaji for weeks, ever since the Empire had attacked their home isle of Hidalgo. The crew had redoubled their efforts against Vaji shipping, while dismissing other more lucrative takes. Zala's pat-down yielded nothing from the merchants, save for the dagger he fought with and 2 silver coins. She pocketed the silver as nervous sweat beaded down her forehead. A tiny clink rang out from the 2 light purse at her waist. It didn't matter, though. She wasn't here for coin. She neared a hatchway that led below decks, but each time she caught a glimpse of one leading to the ship's lower levels, a duel would block her way, fighters on both sides rushing to join bout after bout. Her head swiveled like a hunting owl as she slipped each fight, while she let her crew's wine dance flow around her. Like a vulture, she scavenged the dead and dying. None had what she was looking for, and she only found bronze coins at best and soiled pants at worst. A good pirate would have helped her crewmates secure the deck before looting. Zala didn't consider herself a good pirate. As she snagged a final coin purse from the latest corpse in her wake, the crash of a hatch door opening came at her side. Turning, she had to swallow a snort at the sight before her. A stout cook barreled his way out of the below-deck stained apron and raised pants somewhat, undercutting his otherwise admirable war cry. Waving his pan from left to right, the man charged at the first pirate he saw. He left the hatch behind him wide open. It was bizarre. Zala was never one to shunt her nose up at the rare turnings of good fortune. Cooks meant kitchens, and kitchens meant supplies she needed. She darted, she darted down to the lower deck and closed the hatch after her. Her eyes adjusted from the dark white fog to the dingy shadows of a cramped storeroom. Wrinkling her nose at the stale air, her gaze fell upon a set of overturned barrels. Zala sucked her teeth when she saw their contents. Rich honey seeped onto the wooden floor. She quickly gathered as much as she could into a set of vials. but the sticky substance was incredibly difficult to bottle up. A phial of honey, a bundle of dalo root, a sliver of aloe, an eye of pugalashi, and a stone's worth of mozumba scales. She kept repeating to herself as she gathered up the last of the sweet. Apologies, viewers. The sweet nectar. A sudden thump rumbled above Zala's head. Was it friend or foe who had fallen? She put the thought away as she searched through the rest of the stores. As much as guilt still lingered at the back of her mind, she had to find the galley if she had any hope of scouring up the ingredients Jelani desperately needed. Once she found what she was looking for, she would help the rest of them, not before. Besides, how difficult could defeating a group of merchants really be? As she corked the last vial, another loud thud hit the floor behind her. Zala twisted on her heels with the sword drawn back, ready to stab. A soldier's body lay at her side with a dagger in his back. Zala relaxed her arm when she caught sight of Fawn pulling her blade from the soldier's spine. Of course I would find you here, the Aziza said with a chuckle. Zala shook a mild shock from her face. Aren't you, Aziza, supposed to be lying on your feet? Half Aziza, Fawn corrected her. Zala never knew how to address Fawn. She was both human and Aziza, short for a standard human, but tall among the diminutive forest creatures, and we're not supposed to be on our feet at all. Well, most of the time. You're thinking of Pakami. Right. Zala turned to the fallen soldier. The soldier wore a green turban with red padded armor and a tunic of white, colors of the Vashi Empire, the colors of the military. So the merchants had guards after all. Your hands have been busy, Fawn nodded to the sacks tied to Zala's belt. Her already large eyes widened further. You mean already ran out of the stone bean then? Zala gave her a solemn nod, then sighed. It's becoming more difficult to find what he needs on these ships. How long has it been since he's had some of his potion? This morning, Zala said, still scanning the galley for more ingredients. His stone skin won't grow for a few more days, but I try to stay on top of it. Fawn pursed her lips. What are you missing? Just about everything, but it's usually easier to find below. I think I might have seen a barrel of some in the other storerooms. Yaziza hooked a thumb over her shoulder, Zala grinned, and then the pair of pirates wound their way through the narrow corridors, avoiding what soldiers they would. The ones they could not avoid were men with steel. Alone Zala was no ordinary swordswoman, but with Fawn's flight distracting the soldiers, it made cutting down their enemies almost too easy, even in the right spaces. Are none of these soldiers decent fighters? Fawn asked as Zala cut another in the back. Zala looked down to her latest fallen foe. The Vaji seemed young, no full beard, just the shadow of a mustache. With all these guards, the merchants were undoubtedly holding valuable cargo. It was a surprise the Vaji were pressing so far into the Sapphire Seas at all. It shouldn't have been so shocking, however. Though the foreign nation had a reputation for being little more than poets and scholars, in recent moons they had seemed to reclaim their former titles as explorers and conquerors. Doesn't matter, I'll take easy targets any day. Zala patted the soldier down. Means easy pickings. Light feet led Zala and Fawn toward the storeroom. As they continued, they came across some of their own, a trio of mousy-like men looting with eager hands. Zala gestured their way. You see, I'm not the only one plundering before the captain orders it. Zala couldn't help pressing her nose into the other crew members' loot, despite their sour scowls, making sure none of them had taken any of the ingredients he required. Discipline was sorely lacking on the Titan. Zala glanced through one of the viewports. The clouds were still thick, cloaking the waves on either side of the ship. Well, at least Kobe is getting smarter. Using the fog for the raid is one of the better ideas he's had this week. How large is his ship anyway? Zala asked. Larger than Captain Kobe led on. Wait just a minute over there. One pointed forward, floating just above a set crates. That aloe should be just against the wall. Zala started moving toward the crates, hearts lifting, but she halted when two of the largest men She had seen that they stood between her and her prize. And on that note, viewers and listeners, we will conclude here. Now, in this chapter alone, we get a glimpse of the world. We get a glimpse of piracy, empires, and a possible race to find some kind of cure. Now, this is the first time I've ever read one of Antoine's books, and honestly, I'm glad I'm reading by sea and sky. It reminds me a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean, and I love the fact that he's drawing a lot from the West Indies, the Swahili Coast, and of course Arabia. As an historian, I was able to pick up the Vashi Empire's influences in history, so I really do appreciate that. And I think a lot of you will definitely enjoy reading this book as well. So, I would definitely give this another 5 out of 5 rating. And if you would like to see Antoine's interview, I will attach it in the top right corner of this video. And until next time, everyone, this has been the Wandering Scribe and the Wandering Quill, wishing you all a wonderful night. And we will see you all next time in February. Take care